think we're in the right place.
Is it the right place?
It says we're live.
It looks like we're rolling.
Hello.
Hi,
and
y'all.
hey y'all. We're gonna let a few peeps jump on real quick while you got that going? Yes.
Let's go.
While
Well, I finished this beer left over from our VIP live just moments ago. But don't worry, I brought it back up. I know you guys are concerned.
Yeah. So, guys, today is going to be I tried to shut off your notifications, but I just hit
I don't know
quit
how you
on
can
all
do
this
that.
stuff.
Dana, what's up, girl? Avert thine eyes.
Avert thine eyes.
She tagged me in the post with the emerald or whatever, the little.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So of course I click on it and then
So anyway, guys,
Dang.
we're excited to have
Hi,
all of you guys.
Sarah,
We shot out
Anna.
a text. We put it on Facebook because a lot of you guys have been asking about what's going on with. You guys have been following because you're such beautiful people. You've been following our heartache over the past week and a half after losing our sweet little boy, and we recently had an animal communication session, and we are going to be talking about that on our podcast now. So we have to record our podcast.
We should do that.
We're going to do that now.
Watch your wine.
And we haven't discussed how we're going to talk about this. So. Are you okay? Are you drunk?
No, you just
Are you
almost
sure?
knocked your wine over when you.
I know where it's at. I'm looking at it. How many times do I walk my
If you knock it over, you don't get another one.
Walk my nine over. I don't walk my nine over. Oh my, here we go.
This is going to be fun.
Welcome to episode number 0025 of Back in the Closet with Two Crazy Cat Ladies, guys. This is it's going to actually be a much needed session for us because it's interesting. Right? It's interesting and it's something
word for it.
Yeah, I don't really know necessarily the correct terms of it's all the feels, right? It's everything. It's happy, it's sad, it's weird, it's funny, it's everything.
We're about to discuss our very intense experience with an animal communicator for the first time.
Yeah, so for just a little bit of background for those of you guys listening on our podcast, we recently lost very suddenly one of our sweetest, loving souls, cats, Mr. Biddles, when he was 16 years old, which most people think that's old. We think that's young, and he was in good health. We lost him very suddenly. We took him to the vet for what we thought was constipation, and for a senior blood panel because we do that every 6 months. And
he had just been to the vet on the 20th of February.
Yeah, he had been for an iron shot.
Yeah,
because he was
doing so good. We were celebrating really good test results.
Yeah.
And
so it was a normal drop off. Like we didn't think anything was going to be of substance, and he arrested on the table with the veterinarian and went into cardiac arrest and died. So I say that very sudden, like
I know,
very
like,
matter
wow,
of factly.
rip the Band-Aid off, why don't you? Jeez.
Well, I mean, I say that very matter of factly because we can't go through if you want to go back to our last podcast,
we've overindulged
listen to what it was like going through that. What the cool thing is though, and we've never ever done this before, never even thought about doing something like this before, but one of our beautiful VIP members gifted us with a animal communication session so that we could, because she knew, like many of you guys knew, that we were in shock and we were devastated, but we were very confused about how this happened, why this happened, and was there something going on that we didn't know about, or so she and
that we weren't with him.
Yeah, and we didn't get the opportunity to say goodbye. On this past week, just a couple days ago, we actually had our very first animal communication session and got to connect with Mr. Biddles.
Now, can I jump in here real quick? Okay, so maybe many of you guys are like us. Maybe you've never even heard about this. Maybe you've never thought about it. And if you have thought about it, maybe you've thought that it's a lot of woo-woo, mumbo jumbo, whatever it is. I want to give a little bit of background on who gave us our reading. You guys, if you guys know us at all, you guys know that we rave about Pam with Perfectly Holistic. Pam has a great shop, if you can call it a shop, but she has a number of holistic resources available for all of us cat parents. It's cat specific and it's very significant. Lana is the animal communicator that our VIP member, Trisha, God bless you, gifted us with a session with.
And Lana works with Pam.
And Lana is actually part of Pam's team. So it felt more comfortable for me, from my perspective, knowing Pam as long as we have, and just how incredible Pam has been. It was easier for me to make the jump, being like, oh, okay, we're going to talk to Mr. Biddles now, knowing that it was a kind of like that
source.
Yeah,
right?
A trusted source.
A trusted source. Even though we never heard of,
even though I didn't
heard of her before,
to think of it.
We immediately trusted her because you trust the person that she's with, right? So that's,
Liz.
I mean, that's like all of all of us, that's what we do, right? If we trust somebody, if we trust the recommendation, then we trust the source.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, as soon as we got on the call, her voice, reminded me of Pam's, because it was so soothing.
Oh, God.
The second we got on the call. Now, I do want to, moments before we got on the call, guys, when you're about to do something like this, you're about to go into something that you've never done before. You're still grieving the loss of your loved one, and you have no idea what to expect. It's a little stressful. I mean, for me, it was
reactions that we were having as the time got closer.
Yeah, as it was like 15 minutes till I went to my gagging fits.
Yeah,
it was like something I do when
she's really
anxious.
Stressed about something or she's anxious. Yeah,
and it was, and I didn't think I would feel nervous. I don't know, but I didn't know what to feel because I'd never done it before. So
I felt a big wave of skepticism, and there was a minute, which I know was just like, I wasn't quite sure how to feel about it. There was a minute where I was thinking, I don't think I want to do this. I don't think
really?
I know I didn't tell you that, but kind of like, how about you do it and let me know how it goes? Like, really? I don't know if I can do this.
That's normal though, to feel the skepticism, no matter what it is. Even if you're buying like a product that you've never bought before, you're like, a little skeptical because they say it's going to do A, B, and C.
Right, but when you think you're about to talk to, and Mr. Biddles was my boy.
Yeah.
So it's weird that just the reactions or the responses that you have as we were getting ready for it.
Yeah, the things that you feel, all the feels, right? So we sit down outside. A few other of you beautiful VIP members, guys. We have the best VIP group on the planet. You guys sent us.
Carrie.
We're also live on YouTube if you're listening when we're talking to other people.
Right. Sorry, I keep saying hi to people because they're popping on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So some of you guys sent us our most favorite wine, which is Empathy Wines, and it was 3 bottles of rosé, and we had a celebration night where we had 2 bottles of those.
Yep.
And then we saved the last one, and we decided to crack it open for this communication session. Yep. So we opened some wine, some special wine. We sat outside because it was a beautiful night, and we put in our AirPods, and we were waiting for that moment. It was going to be, the call was at 4:30. It was like 4:15, 4:20. We're both like, okay, shut everything down. Let's just sit here and wait. And all of a sudden, a tuft of hair from Mr. Biddles blew up underneath the table outside. Now, let me give you a little bit of a backstory. He had some mats on his side and on his belly that he's always struggled with. His coat is like, which is why he struggled with constipation. His coat was just like a teddy bear from the 1800s. Like that, it didn't matter how much you groomed him, didn't matter how much coconut oil he had. I mean, these things helped.
They did
for
help
sure,
significantly.
but he never looked different than a teddy bear from the 1800s.
It was like overnight, because we would always check to see if he was getting mats, and he would get them like on his like chest area, most predominantly, or sometimes on like his thighs. So we had noticed a few, and he, just to give a little background, over the years, he's been one of those rare cats that loves we call it his summer dew. He loved to get shaved. He would play. It was like he was a brand new, he thought he was so fine.
And he would just
loved it.
And you gotta think his coat was so thick.
Yeah,
that it just weighted him down.
Felt so good, especially out in Vegas. You know, a lot of cats, and Dr. Karen Becker says, you know, please don't shave your cats unless it's medically needed. And with Mr. Biddles, we had been through so much with his coat.
It basically was.
And it basically was. So when it got warm enough, and cats like a warmer temperature in the house, just FYI, don't freeze them out at 73 degrees. We would shave him for his summer dew. This year, he was very reluctant. Yeah. So I found a few mats on his chest, and I was we were outside.
And on his side.
Yep. I got the ones on his side, and he was kind of okay with that. But when I was trying to get the ones on his chest, and I don't like scruffing cats, but he wasn't being very cooperative.
Yeah.
And so I had only just gotten a few of the mats.
But she was outside because she thought, well, he loves to be outside. Yeah. So we would take him outside, especially over the last month or so. Temperature's perfect.
Oh, he loved it.
He would just find a sunspot. He would roam around. He would chase bugs. He was just so happy outside. So we would bring him outside by himself without the other cats and let him roam around. He never went far. And she was like, okay, maybe since he's happier outside, this will be a great time. This is a good opportunity to try to get some more of those mats. So we're talking weeks ago. Yeah, weeks ago, she cut out some mats in the backyard, which we've had lots of wins over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
So I actually thought about them prior to this. I thought, well, there were these tufts of his hair everywhere. I wonder if we're going to find them and how I'll feel when I see them.
Right before the call.
But they were gone, and right before the call, one of those big tufts comes up under the table, and Adrienne reaches down and picks it up, and she's like, Mr. Bills, it still smelled like him. It totally smelled like him. So we were immediately in tears prior to her calling to do this animal communication session. Now, the computer just went off again. Now, she calls, and immediately she has that soothing voice, and we're like, okay.
It brought it down a notch.
We're like, okay, this feels good. Let's jump right in. And it was very interesting.
So, and I think we're going to probably talk about some of the specific things.
Yeah.
But I think that, and for anyone who's thinking about doing this, I just have to say at the top, no matter what we're about to say, off the top, I feel like it is such a beautiful exercise in gaining perspective and understanding when something like this happens. And maybe it is, we were talking with our VIP members whose cat has been lost for 10 years, 14 years, 15 years. I forget now, Marissa, I'm sorry. But it's like, is this something that could help heal that situation? Closure is a strong word. Maybe it feels like closure to you, but this experience, I know we're about to discuss all the stuffs,
all the feels,
but it is such an incredible, whether you believe in it or not, whether you don't know what to think of it or not, it is an exercise in perspective that I feel has, especially after listening again the second time, has enlightened my emotional response to this.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, for sure. Now, there's nothing we've always believed, and tell all of you when somebody reaches out and says, we've lost I just lost one of my cats, or I had to put one of my cats down, or something like that. We have always believed that the souls of our cats live on. That is not something that we've ever questioned. We have experienced it with cats that we have lost. So, I mean, without an animal communicator, without another resource, we have experienced it. So when this opportunity came about, it was different and something we've never done, but it wasn't too far off what we already believe, right? So she's like, let's dive in, right? And she's like, immediately like, Mr. Biddles is
she felt a very strong connection to him,
a powerful cat. Which is interesting, because as much as he was powerful to us in our household, he was like baby.
We always
Years
say he
later.
was the baby.
We always said, like, he's our oldest cat now after we lost Scotch. We were like, he's our oldest cat, but he's the biggest baby.
And
he's
Jae,
so dramatic. He's just like always like.
We're going to try not to tell too many stories as
Okay,
we go, but
yeah.
I do think that Lana said one of the first things. So she's saying that he was a very strong and loud and powerful cat. And we were kind of like, Mr. Fiddles. And she said, off the top, though, I want to let you know that he wants you guys to know that he was of sound mind. And I thought that was hilarious because Jae has actually said, and this is going to be, I'm not going to use the word, but Jay's always thought that he was just a little bit special. Special is what she thought. And there towards the end, I remember talking to Jae while he sat at the window that I was worried that he was getting dementia. He was starting to do things that I felt were concerning. And so right off the top, she says, he wants you to know that he was of sound mind throughout his entire experience, which was
relieving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and, makes us think that why are we such helicopter moms? Like since right. Thursday, I have been like, I start to get worried about something and then I'm like, chill out a little bit. Let's not be too dramatic yourself, Jae. Right. But yeah, so she said he was of sound mind. She said he also believes he is a comedian, or in his own terms, he is.
He tried to be our comedic relief.
Yes, he tried to lighten the mood in our household when there was.
Sure did.
He really did, and what's funny is that we never ever thought of him as a funny cat or someone that was like relieving,
like doing something intentionally to try to de-stress us.
Yeah, I never thought about that at the time, but then
in
looking back, hindsight's 2020, right? Looking back in 2020, he actually, there were so many things that he did that we were like, we were worried about, or we were like,
what was that? Did you see Mr. Bettles? What was that? Like, just little things. And he, in the reading, he shared that he wasn't always successful with his comedic relief. That he was,
no, because sometimes he just worried us.
Yeah. But that he fancied himself quite the comedian. And I think that I think part of the piece that comes from this is that he wanted us to know that this was his time. He was getting a promotion, which we also think
he is now Secretary of the Universe.
Secretary of the Universe, which I think that might be part of his comedic relief, but I wouldn't doubt it. He is quite the elder statesman. He was quite the elder statesman here on Earth. And that this was his last hurrah in physical form, and that he has been promoted.
Which is funny and kind of interesting as far as like when we take it, we're like
our perspective of him.
Your perspective of that is like,
okay.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Moving along. And then he really hit on a lot of things that we don't talk about in our lives, and we don't talk in our when we're live on Facebook or when we're live on social media. We don't really talk about just like our personal things in life. Like
he is such a sweetheart.
Like Adrienne stressing about certain things and moving too fast in our life or business even is what we both thought of with that. Or for me, the loss that I had of my grandfather,
who is still physically here.
Who's still physically here, but had he was my best friend on the planet. Like my best friend on the planet.
Oh, and she let me know that on a regular basis.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if it came down to you and Granddad, I don't know what I say for real. But that relationship broke 5 years ago, and it was really difficult for me. And he said, I want you to know that I know that this happened and I want to be there for you, which would just, tears running down your face. Like, oh my, like you were there for all that. You did see all of that. And, all the humans in my world have a totally different reaction from being like, Jae, I'm going to be there for you for that, but
do you know what I thought when he said in the reading, he was telling Jae that he wants her to still talk to him as a friend. And I was thinking, how cute is that? I didn't know that you actually talked to him about it. But what many of you guys should know about Jae is that she talks through things out loud.
I do.
So Mr. Biddles must have thought she was talking to him.
I probably
and
was.
Said, and
half
he
the time
asked,
I talk to the cats.
Yeah. And he asked if you will
Or it
continue.
starts as that, and then I just keep talking to myself.
If you will continue to talk to him, which was just, that's our sweet boy.
Yeah.
That's our sweet boy.
I
want to talk just for a minute about them because this is my hard part, and I just want to get it over with.
Okay. The guilt.
Yep.
The guilt.
So
all of us go through guilt when we lose an animal or human, like all of us, no matter, even if you're disconnected from them and they pass away, but you feel you feel like there's something that you probably could have done, or you might could have done, or
maybe
didn't
you shouldn't have done.
We all deal with this, and this was our biggest issue when it came to the passing of Biddles.
So we had asked, we wanted to know more about just what happened to him, what was his experience, right? So we asked if he was in pain, and she shared that he was not in pain, that he had started feeling a little bloated, a little uncomfortable over the past week or so, but he was not suffering. And obviously that bloated thing, we thought it was constipation, but that's why we brought him in to just kind of check on him, even though he pooped 20 minutes after that. Yeah. So after we made the appointment, and that he was of sound mind throughout the entire experience. We had a concern though, just because it was so sudden, that maybe he had been, but I'm just going to say it out loud, maybe there had been a mistake. Maybe he had been medicated, or maybe he had been sedated, or maybe something happened that
triggered a cardiac
that
arrest.
Wasn't supposed to happen. He had never had a heart issue. So we were asking, and she said that no, he was not injected. And when we asked about, he had not been injected, there were no needles. She said, I do see a cup over his face. And when the vet called us, she let us know that he was on oxygen because of his really irregular heartbeat and the fluid that it was developing in his fluid in his abdomen and his chest. And the thing that really bothered me, because like we mentioned from the top of this, the whole reason his tuft of fur blew up was because we had wanted to give him his summer due, but he seemed very reluctant this year. And so I never really forced it. If he was, and I am an advocate of not really forcing things, which is why
force your cat. Yeah.
I feel guilty about this, is because I asked someone else to do something that he wouldn't let me do. And if I would have thought about it, maybe I would have thought, if he wouldn't let me do it, why would he be cooperative with someone else? So the guilt was about the shaving. And she said, did they actually shave him or not? And she said, because he's hesitating. And the truth is that when we saw him, they had shaved only a tiny portion of him. He was not shaved.
And the vet had said that that they had not even got to the things that he was there for, the blood panel and his stomach and things like that. They weren't even looking into that yet. They were starting with shaving him when they realized that he was like irregular heartbeat and so off. So, and we know that he's kind of a stressed out cat, right? He's always been.
We've always thought he was. He just thought he was being funny, apparently.
But his body reacts as stress,
right? Which is why I never pushed it with the shaving. But here's what happened. And Lana was, or Mr. Biddles, very kind in saying that this was his time to go, and that it was his opportunity. It was his opportunity, and that he was looking for the opportunity, but that when he saw the clippers, he knew that was his opportunity. Which kills. Which maybe it's supposed to be.
It is supposed to be.
I get that it was supposed to be his time, but can't help but think that
he could have lived, as he said, another
4, 5, 6, 7 years.
But he found the opportunity, and he took the opportunity to go. And so the first time after our communication session, that was especially for Adrienne, that was like the biggest. I can't believe I just asked, and you actually used the words. We've never used the words or even talked about it, but you actually used the word lion cut, which is why you're
right. Because I didn't want them to touch their mane, and someone told me once that we gave them a lion cut. I mean, it wasn't a pretty lion cut.
We give them such horrible cuts.
It's not like it's a good cut that we give them. We just, or that we had given him. I mean, he looked pretty good after a couple of weeks. Kind of like when I get a haircut, it looks better after a few weeks.
Which we did yesterday, and so our hair will look better in a couple of weeks. But
I said a lion cut so that they would leave his
mane in check.
Like not like completely shaven,
yeah.
but
we also said because when you said that, I was like, well, it doesn't have to be pretty.
Right.
Like we were really
worried about the mats on his chest.
Like we don't want him to get mat sores. We don't want it to be uncomfortable for him if he lets you.
And he wasn't letting me get to him, and
So that was like a point of contention, if you will, of you with yourself, worrying about thinking
causing
guilt, causing the situation to happen. But then we went back and watched it last night. So a few,
listen to it again.
The rest.
So this session, just so you guys know, this session with Lana is recorded. Which, if you guys decide to do that, that's actually a gift because it's kind of intense in the beginning, and there were so many times listening to it the second time that I was like, why didn't I ask a follow-up question? Why didn't I?
Yeah.
Right. But you get to digest it better the second time around because it's an intense experience. The first time, kind of intense the second time too. Yeah. But it's more digestible the second time.
Yeah. So there were some other things that he said that were, I don't know.
That were so Mr. Biddles.
Well, some of them were so Mr. Biddles. And then some of it was like, what? Like the small rodent. Right. He said she was seeing a small rodent. She was like, I see a hamster.
Back it up. So one of our questions, so Lana gives us an opportunity to ask some questions
to Mr. Biddles.
Prior to the prior to the meeting. And so one of the questions that we had for him was, does he have any advice for us? God knows
he had a lot of advice.
But Mr. Biddles has been one of our biggest.
He's been through everything with us.
He's been through everything with us.
Everything
with us.
Yeah.
Literally,
we've had him since like the moment that we became joined
together.
forces. Yeah.
He was our first shared kitty.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, he's been through everything with us, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah. All of it.
The moves, the everything.
Yep.
So one of our questions was, does he have any advice for us? And he says, or Lana says, I'm seeing a small rodent. Do you guys have
a
She
hamster?
said, I'm seeing a hamster. We were like, what do you mean? Like a mouse or something like that. I was like, we got rats on the back wall.
We don't though.
We haven't seen them in a few years.
Yeah.
But Lord, you were mad about them. I think they left just because you were so rude to them.
No, I think the neighbors finally did something about it.
And we were like, what is this? And she said, okay, he's not saying that you have to do this, but she said, I'm seeing a hamster. And she said, he feels that adding a small hamster or a small rodent to your crew could be a beautiful way to help show the relationships that cats can have with basically other species.
Yeah.
And that she sees this small rodent having a special relationship with one of our cats. Who do you think that cat is?
Friday.
Really? I see Pooh Bear.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, that would be cute.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't want to be spotlight. He also talked about Pooh Bear.
He said, now I would like to talk about the sick one.
Yeah. She was like, do you have a sick cat? We're like, well, we've got a boy. That they were buds. They were tight buds.
Best buds.
Mr.
One of the
Biddles
most heartbreaking moments was watching Pooh Bear look for Mr. Biddles. And he would always chirp when he would come up to Mr. Biddles. And they were best buds. They were close. They were really close. They had a special bond.
Yeah. And but Pooh Bear has an autoimmune disease due to over-vaccinating. Let's not over-vaccinate
Something
our cats.
else we've learned, right?
And he has been sick on and off over many years now.
Since we've had
He's
him.
been good since about October
October
of last year
20th.
when we met Pam.
Right.
And
Which is why Lana is a trusted source.
right.
Because she works with Pam.
But he said, I want to talk about the sick one. And he said that, okay, Pooh Bear. Okay, Pooh Bear is the sick one. All right, so Pooh Bear does not like to be in the spotlight. And
he feels pressure from it. He would prefer a more quiet life. He doesn't mind if we would take some pictures for personal use only.
Yeah, which is funny because it's like Biddles is like all of a sudden jumping in. When we ask him for advice, he's jumping into our business.
Like, here you go.
He's not like, this is what you need to. I mean, he did. He talked about like my situation and your situation, but he went straight over to business and just started diving into like what you guys are doing with your followers and A, B, and C.
And
Lana, I want you to.
Lana, I think, is aware that we have a Facebook page.
Don't make Mr. Pooh Bear. Don't make Pooh Bear be the spotlight of what you guys are doing because he doesn't like that. Which is
that something? And he said, and Mr. Biddles shared that he wants us to be more mindful of that because he's not here to keep an eye on Mr. Biddles or keep an eye on Pooh Bear. Like he was physically, anymore.
But he was very worried
but that
about
he was
Pooh
very
Bear.
Concerned about him while they were together. Like he kept an eye. And Carrie here on YouTube, I know we're missing a lot of comments, you guys. I apologize. Carrie's asking, how are the other cats dealing with this loss? And I think that's an important question, real quick, just because I think it's so important for all of us to recognize that when we lose a member of our family, that our cats do grieve. They may grieve differently than we grieve. When we lost Mama, and Scotch and Mama were a couple for life, Scotch literally cried. He went deaf. He started having neurological issues. They didn't last too long. But it was definitely, he looked for her everywhere. They snuggled every night on top of each other. I mean, he really went through a grieving process that was very obvious to us. Pooh Bear, I will say, when we lost Scotch was an in-home euthanasia. And that was something that we feel was a blessing to everyone because they all knew it was coming and they all got to be there for the moment. And it was probably the most peaceful passing for our crew that we've ever experienced.
It was.
Mr. Biddles was just going to the vet as he did every month for his iron shot and never came home. And that has caused, I think, especially with Pooh Bear and with Twister.
And that's what happened with Mama, right? I mean, she was sick and we used every bit of energy and homeopathic, holistic supplements, everything to keep her going for another year when she had a bad prognosis. And then, and she actually didn't die of her prognosis, but but it was like one morning, it was a Mack truck situation. She starts sneezing blood. She's rushed to the vet and we have to make that decision and she's gone. And so it was hard for Scotch in that way too. Right. And so this was not even like, they didn't feel our stress when we left. They didn't feel our stress when we were at home. We weren't stressed.
We didn't know.
We were excited about picking him up and hearing from the vet in about like an
But obviously when we came home, they knew something was wrong. We brought the blanket home with us. And all to say, as far as cats grieving, Carrie, such a great question. Pooh Bear, who often reacts behaviorally to different situations, he started spraying. Yeah. He came into our closet and he sprayed in our closet, the downstairs bathroom.
Every dress I own, which good thing I don't wear dresses anymore, but
every dress I own. Anything that hung low was...
He sprayed them.
But he was definitely reacting to the loss of... And we brought the blanket home that Mr. Biddles passed in to try to help everyone know
the scent.
that he was gone, which I think was helpful, especially for Zorro and Friday. I think that they kind of got it.
They immediately went to the blanket. Friday and Biddles were also very close.
They were close, yeah.
And she snuggled up on it immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. But Twist is acting a little, he's just acting sad. He's acting sad to me. He hasn't been acting out. But Pooh Bear, so all to say that grief for cats is we know that we're
Is
going
a
through a
thing.
hard time, and it's like the last thing we want is for every dress in the closet to be sprayed, and it's like, you don't. Cats respond to grief differently. So
Yeah.
it's very important to show compassion and do what we can to help. Sometimes distraction is good for them, to
Yeah.
play with them more, to let them know that we know
we've
what's
let
going
them
on.
outside more. Pooh Bear's outside more. It's helping.
Right.
Talking to them, playing with them, giving them more attention is super important when it comes to your
And that's been
cat's
helpful
craving.
for Twist and for Pooh Bear too.
Yeah.
Letting them
Yeah.
out.
They're all, I think right now, I think they're all doing
very good.
Very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
So back to the reading though, and the advice that Mr. Biddles had for us. He also mentioned that he wishes, he's not making this an obligation for us, but he wishes that there was a place for kitties to go when they're old, when their owners either maybe they have a job where they're not able to give them the care that they need, or maybe they live in a home that's just very a rambunctious home or something where they don't have. He said senior cats are often ignored, and that he wishes there was a place for them to go. Lana used the word hospice, right? She said that he said that we have that kind of place for old people, but we don't necessarily have that space for old cats. And she hopes very much that that's something that the world can offer.
Yeah.
And then
he also mentioned that he thinks, and this kind of was an obligation for us, that he wanted specifically for us to reach out to, use our platform to reach out to younger girls. So like young girls
that love their cats.
And not just like 19-year-olds, but like 10-year-olds, like 7-year-olds, like
that feel that they can't talk to their family, but they can talk to their cat.
Yeah.
And I think he was trying to say, I think that a lot
that
of
feel
us
lonely.
Yeah. That feel
young, lonely girls with cats.
Yeah.
That love cats.
Well, but I think he has a point with that, because even in this reading to us, I feel like there was so much that we weren't necessarily picking up on from him, or didn't realize what he was meaning in this life.
Well, I mean, that one hit home for me immediately.
Oh, because
I have always loved children, and I've always wanted to be a resource for children. That's like something most people don't know about me. Like my actual goal in life was like the big goal. I started writing a business plan like 10 years ago on how I'm going to make an orphanage, and I'm going to.
They don't call it an orphanage anymore.
I know it was called something. I talked to my attorney. Like
she was like, I need to figure out how to organize.
I'm going to make this happen, and one day I will, in whatever way it turns out or is supposed to be.
Mr. Biddles will help you figure it out.
I think so. And to like put those two worlds together, though, the fact that he put those two worlds together made it like, wow, because I know 100% that this is what we're supposed to be doing right now. That what we're doing is what we're supposed to be doing. There is no question. And if anything, he is another affirmation on that, another huge affirmation that what we're doing is what we're supposed to be doing. But the children aspect was kind of missing when it comes to our business. And he said, I need you guys to reach out to younger girls that love their cats and feel lonely. And that's like totally, yes. I don't know how, but that's what I want to do. I just have to like make sure my language is better.
What I think is what's significant to me is I think, again, regardless, like we were talking at the top of the podcast, whatever your beliefs are about this, or whatever you may think about being able to communicate, I think Pam has such a great way, and Lana too. She introduced us to the energy circle. There's a circle of energy, and she wanted to know if anyone else was listening, and so that they could just please announce if they were there, so that it was a closed circle of energy. Energy is something that I don't think many of us necessarily understand. I know I don't. The true power of that. Yeah. But I think that all things being equal, there were so many points about this where like, what the hell is he talking about? Does she have the right cat? And then it was like, oh my God, that's so Biddles, right? Like that's something that only he would know. So when even as you're listening, you're still kind of, for me, a little bit skeptical. But I think at the end of the day, it really makes me realize, especially that point of being able to reach out to younger people that are feeling lonely, that feel like they can't talk to their families, understanding, and we know this, the emotional cortex of cats is
We
more
know.
similar to humans than even a dog's is.
Yeah.
Dogs are more expressive, but cats are actually more emotionally similar to us,
Yeah.
even though they express and
it
accept
in a
love
different way.
differently, right? Or emotions in general. So I think it's a really powerful thing to recognize that all things being equal, there were things about Mr. Biddles that we didn't even know
Yeah.
during his 16 years with us.
Yeah.
There were things about him maybe that we didn't necessarily appreciate or even respect fully in his life with us. And I think that being able to share with people the depth of how a cat actually can be such a friend
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
And I think he wanted us
And I
to
think
know
we
that it's
all know
important.
that. I think every listener, every one of you guys on YouTube, you guys all know, like we understand, we all have the same um, mindset that our cats are not just, oh, well, it's just a cat kind of thing. Like that's not our average follower. Our average follower is my cat is my best friend. My cat is
Yeah.
my child, or my cat is my everything.
Yeah, your life.
And
Your
my
confidant.
entire life.
Yeah.
Like this is not something that I'm just going to take lightly. This life is my life, and we connect in such a way that's deeper than just the cat.
Oh, I think
right?
this is Cat here. I'm so bad with keeping up with handles, but mentioning how Mr. Biddles hoped that there would be a
Is Cat here?
hospice.
Are we sure Cat's here? Because I almost
Meow is life. Cat, is that you? Because she said that's what Dr. Steelman always intended with the Poppy Foundation. A
hospice
for older cats.
Mr. Biddles,
Mr. Biddles was there. Yes.
That's so true. I
Okay,
didn't
so
think about
Kat,
that.
the other thing that she asked us,
And
and
we're
this
gonna write.
was-
We're gonna write you a. We're gonna write you a letter
We'll let you-
about
yeah.
this in the mail. But we'll go ahead and tell you since you're here. One thing he said when
we
he
were
was
asking
talking
about his passing
passing.
and what happened, and he said that he received help at the end, and she said, did you make a choice to euthanize? And we were like, no. And she was like, well, what does he mean then that he received help?
And the first thing that came to mind was you. And I said, well, one of our followers, as I call it, you're like more than a follower, but one of our followers is actually a volunteer there and got to meet him for the first time that day, and was actually sent us pictures of him, and it was great. He was doing great, and she got to see him, and she said, "Okay, hold on," and then she was like, "Okay, yeah, it's definitely your follower that gave him help in his last moments."
Thank you.
That's why we were going to write a letter instead of talk about it. But we still will write that letter because there's more to say. But again, thank you so much. There are no words for that connection, as small as it may have even seemed at the time. I know you said you thought you were meeting Brad Pitt because you got to meet Mr. Biddles, and I know he was like your favorite of our cats. But the fact that you were just there and you're like, yay, it's Mr. Biddles, and you sang him this little song and you took some pictures
that you were a help
of
to him, and you were such a help to us.
You were the help to him in his last moments. And that is like, there's nothing that's priceless. That's thank you. Anyway, so
sorry, guys.
So one of the last things he said to us was that he wanted us to memorialize him. Actually, he said about memorializing him, he didn't care how it happened. If we spread his ashes or if we kept his ashes, he didn't care. It was a
combination of the two.
Yeah.
He said he didn't.
He said, hey, I don't care. And
us.
I'm like, yeah, you're going up with Scotch and Mama and Tiggy, all of which were like, they were the crew. They were original. They were the OGs. They were the original crew in our home. And
it's weird that they're all gone.
I know. But he said, what I do want you to do is, and I'll spare you all the details, but she was like, do you have a fire pit? And we were like, yeah. And cause that's like one of whenever we actually relax, we're going to go around the fire pit.
Yeah.
When we're sitting outside at our table, we're usually
still
still working. We're usually still doing stuff, but we have this area in our backyard, which we built, that is a fire pit area.
Cat said,
And
I opened his cage and really snuggled him.
Oh,
Love you. He's a sweet little snuggle boy, huh?
He's such a snuggler. I forgot what I was saying now.
The fire pit.
The fire pit.
He asked that we
have a fire.
She said, do you guys have a place a way to light a fire? Like a fireplace or maybe a fire pit. And Mr. Biddles would always be at the window because the back window is right in front of the fire pit that we built the year that we moved in because we had to have a fire pit because it's the only way that we unplug.
Yeah. Well, and we just love being outside because we live in Vegas. There aren't bugs. Not a lot of bugs. And there's not like, every night is a beautiful night.
Right.
And so fire pits are like essential. He basically said, I want you to have a fire pit. I want you to have a dark beverage, probably red wine. As you know, that's what we do.
How did he know that?
How would he know that? And I want you to, discuss and talk about the good things that happened in my life. And so last night,
share stories.
Yesterday, from recording this on a Sunday, on Saturday, we went and picked up his ashes from the vet's office, and we brought him home. And then last night we made a fire. And we sat around the fire pit, and it was perfect. And he said, preferably on a starry night, which was so interesting because we were going to do this on Friday night, which is a little cloudy, and we really actually windy. Just were not, and really windy, and we were actually just not feeling it.
Yeah.
So we were like, we're not going to go pick up his ashes tonight. We're going to wait till tomorrow, which I told the vet we were going to go on Saturday anyway, but we were going to try to do it early. And so on Saturday, when we pick up the ashes and we do our stuff that we had to do, and then we come home, the moon is almost gone. There's almost zero moon left.
Is it
it's a sliver, whatever. I can't do words. It's like a sliver of the moon, and so it's super starry. In our backyard, we have, we just have our fire pit. So we're sitting there. We've got trees above us, but we're looking at the stars.
Count stars.
It was a clear skies, and all the wind died down. And so it was the perfect temperature for it.
It was just a little bit chilly.
Yeah, it was the perfect temperature for a mild
Which
fire.
It won't be later this week. It's going to be 109 in Vegas.
Yeah.
So it was the perfect homecoming.
Yeah. So we spent the night around the fire last night, re-listened to this communication session, which brought us more peace, and listening to it again and understanding that, kind of lessening the guilt, if you will, and
or
thinking
helping with the understanding. I mean, there's nothing. The thing about guilt is that it doesn't change anything, right? And it's just terrible suffering, right?
Yeah.
So listening to it again, I heard more of
what he was saying.
This was his time, and he saw an opportunity. So it was helpful.
And she also said that she was sure that if we wouldn't have given him that opportunity, she was very confident that his health was going to decline, and he was going to go into epilepsy or seizures or something of that nature. And that so we saved him of that by giving him this opportunity, even though we weren't trying to give him an opportunity out by any shape of the form.
Stretch of the imagination. Or shape of the form. I do. I do.
No shape of the form. So anyway, guys, it was an amazing session. If you guys want to reach out, and honestly, it's not like Lana doesn't just do animal communication
with the deceased,
our
loved ones that have passed.
She does animal communication with the cat that you have, or the dog that you have, I think.
I don't know if it's dogs.
No, I don't know. Okay, so with the cat that you have currently right there in your home, she will help you communicate with them now that are lively and whatever. Maybe you've lost a cat. There's no, the thing that we've learned from Pam and Lana is that there's no space or time when it comes to energy.
Oh,
So
Perfectly Holistic is here. She talks to
Oh,
all
hello.
animals.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, yes, yeah.
Yes.
So dogs too, like
So if we get that hamster,
so if we get that hamster, we're gonna reach out again.
We're
We're gonna be like,
reaching
what
out.
is it saying? What's
What
that
do we
thing
do?
saying?
you know,
I
I
don't know.
had 3 hamsters growing up,
I had a mouse in college.
which I think is funny because now they just make you scream.
It was
It's
a
weird.
mouse. It was a cute little mouse.
Okay, yeah. I remember catching
but-
a mouse in the box that made you scream. But
Yeah,
all to say, we digress
that
again.
was a rat.
I just think it's such a gift, and I use the word gift because it is one to us, and it's helping with a lot of the situation. I also feel like even if you're skeptical, as I tend to be, what's wrong with me? It helps give a perspective. Ironically, I always say when we're dealing with something that's painful or stressful, whatever, I call it getting on the hamster wheel, right? And we just can't get off the hamster
Maybe
wheel.
that's what he
and
was talking about.
and it's hard to think about anything that's not negative or not stressful or not whatever. And we can't see that 30,000 foot view.
Right.
At the very least, and this is a cheapened way of looking at it, at the very least, what this gift is a gift of perspective. Once you hear something, you can't unknow it, right? Like you can't pretend you didn't hear it. And it helps you utilize
And
a different
digest.
perspective
Yeah.
and think about things in a different way. And I feel like it is, it's been very helpful.
Yeah.
It's been very helpful, and I definitely recommend it.
So you can
It's
reach
really
out to her at perfectlyholistic.com, PURRR, perfectlyholistic.com. If you guys have an animal that you want to connect with, whether here or gone, you can do that. Again, she has the most soothing voice on the planet.
And she does it remotely. So basically I
Yeah.
believe she just needs a photo of your pet alone where she can see your pet's eyes. So
to really connect with
to
them.
really be able to
Just
connect.
like Pam. Yeah. So anyway, guys, we love you so much.
Oh,
Thank you for
Nikki.
joining us. For those of you guys on YouTube, we're going to be live and
In 30
minutes on Facebook for our cat tip review.
I'm gonna clean my face up a
We're
little
going to
bit.
just put in some eye drops and stuff, maybe a little powder on
I
our
might get
faces.
some powder on this face, Lord.
Right? Okay. But thanks for joining us. We hope
And a
that
thank
you guys.
to Lana. Pam, please tell
Yes,
thank
and
you.
Kat.
And Kat.
So for
Tell Lana
so
thank you.
for those of you guys that are listening right now, if we hope that this is somewhat of a maybe even just a new opportunity that you
A
haven't
new
thought
idea
of
that
before.
you can
Here's the thing:
explore.
is that yes, we reached out to Mr. Biddles with like a week later after we lost him, but it doesn't have to be a week later. It could be 15 years later, Marissa. It could be 5 years later. It could be it doesn't have to happen right now. We did it because we were basically gifted is the number
Thank
one
you,
reason
Trisha.
because we were gifted with it, and so we might have sat on it and thought about it for a long time. We were thinking
and a
about
lot
it,
of
but
things. I feel like a lot of things would have festered a lot longer. Not that there's not festering going on, but just that the tools to better have a better perspective about it, or an understanding, or a new way of thinking about it,
or just to
wouldn't be
even
there.
feel like you are connecting with the one you love in whatever way that is. That feels that alone feels good. So don't pass up animal communication just because it sounds a little voodoo or hoodly doodly
It's
or
woo
woo.
Voodoo is like a different thing.
Is it? Oh yeah, that's like the pins, right? Okay, yeah. I don't mean voodoo. I don't know. You know me. I don't know my words. Anyway,
Words aren't
guys, we
challenged.
love you so much. Thank you for joining us. Do join us on Facebook later, or subscribe to our podcast. We're back in the closet with the two crazy cat ladies. We will be on Apple and Spotify, and this will be dropped tomorrow on Apple, Spotify, and all the podcast platforms that you like to listen to. And we love you guys.
And
so
we just
much.
have a lot of gratitude for you guys. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you guys so much.
So much gratitude.
Hopefully we'll see you guys on Facebook, and we'll be back in the closet next week.
Yes. Love you guys.
Love y'all. Thank you guys.